Now I get to Ed Martin, who was on the program here yesterday and on again this morning with Patty, and was talking to Fred Hutton, as you may have heard just recently on the station, responding to this new Liberty report for the PUB. And I tell you, I was a little disappointed in myself yesterday for not being, it just had come out, and I wasn't as familiar with the report as I am now. I'm certainly not as familiar as I would like to be. But some of the answers given are a little suspect, I have to state at this point. The report says they made errors. Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro made errors in judgment and otherwise. That they didn't do the required maintenance on the schedule that was suggested. But Ed Martin yesterday said no, it doesn't point to any lack of attention on our part at all. He says things like, we are in line. There's alignment between what we know and found out and what they say. Well, just because you're in line doesn't make it right. There's some implication here somehow that they wanted resources they couldn't get. They would have done work that they didn't get to do because somebody stopped them. And we need to talk more about that too. But clearly, he says the outages are not due to them not doing the scheduled maintenance. Whereas the report suggests that's exactly what is in part at least responsible. He says things like compared to 5-year average across the country. Frankly, I'm not interested. I don't want to hear about how we're doing compared to other jurisdictions. We're not bound by parameters of other jurisdictions that you define, by the way, that you decide that are advantageous for your argument. If we're less or more incompetent as other people, what difference does that make? That doesn't mean we're not cold and in the dark, and that our pipes aren't frozen and broken, and that some of our food is getting spoiled, etc. Damages incurred. Someone is not doing their job, has not been doing their job. Someone has been remiss in executing their duties. They have one duty, to generate power sufficient to meet the needs of the people of this province, and they didn't do it. They failed. They fell down. They didn't deliver in return for what we pay them to do. Now, whoever that is, whether it is Mr. Martin at the helm or several other people or the board or whoever, someone is responsible and should be held accountable for this. We didn't get what we paid for. Now, the Premier says, moving along here, that a review of Muskrat Falls will be done if and when it's determined not to be the lowest cost option. Clearly, it'll be far too late when that is known. We don't know it now, what the final cost is projected to be. Mr. Martin, in response to Patty's question this morning, said, well, he won't speak for the Premier, but in discussions with the Premier, he says the Premier knows we're doing Muskrat Falls. Plain and simple. There can't be any review of Muskrat Falls, regardless of what the cost is going to be. We're invested. We're doing it now. And whether or not we span that $2.5 billion to get to where they say the other option was, in estimation, doesn't matter. It's going to be finished now. I think even if it costs us double what they projected in the beginning. I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying that it's a bygone conclusion that this project will be finished. Patty also asked him, and I'm rushing here because of my time allotment for the preamble, but he says, do we owe Nova Scotia compensation if we're late in bringing them to power from Muskrat Falls? Now, again, there was a backtracking and a reframing, and he said, well, we have to look at the big picture, that we're talking a long contract with lots of upside over time down near the end, or after the big expenditure is made. Patty asked him the question because the Premier of Nova Scotia suggested that, yes, there will be compensation owed to their province should we not deliver power on schedule. Mr. Martin didn't deny that. Mr. Dowley, by the way, said the same thing that as Mr. Martin, that no, there's no compensation, that everything gets delayed. The 35-year contract starts when the power is available. But there was no answer from Mr. Martin this morning on compensation. I can only assume that if he fails to say absolutely no, we don't owe them any compensation, there is no penalty for not delivering the power, then there probably is. Again, do we pay compensation if we're late on our commitment to give them power in 2017? Anyway, I ask it again, and I welcome an answer if I can get one this afternoon. One more time. Alignment does not earn you points. Just because we knew we shagged up, and Liberty confirms this, so we're proud we were right about us being wrong, doesn't work for me. That's essentially what you're saying. We knew we were wrong. Liberty confirms it, so bully for us. We were right about being wrong. And saying you won't screw up again, or you're trying to work very hard and fast to mediate the damage here, doesn't work either. The report says we should anticipate more blackouts until 2017. That's unacceptable. And again, there's an implication in some of the answers if you read into them, and you have to read into some of these answers. There's an implication that essentially they were prevented from spending the money, getting the resources required to do the work required. I don't know. Is that a PUB shot? I can't interpret that. I don't know what that means. But in any case, the work wasn't done when it was supposed to be done, and we're suffering the consequences and will in future years. That's how I read it.